Donald Trump's weaponization of the Justice Department continues in a big way. NBC News is reporting that the FBI's Washington field office is folding its federal public corruption squad. That's according to 3 people familiar with the matter. It happens to be the very same unit that worked on Jack Smith's special counsel investigation into Donald Trump. The field office has 3 units that work on public corruption issues, but this one, known internally as CR-15, was deeply involved in the Bureau's Arctic frost investigation, which was the precursor to the Jack Smith probe into efforts to overturn the 2020 election results by Donald Trump and his allies. That investigation resulted in one of the 2 federal criminal cases against Donald Trump, both of which were dropped after he won the election in November. Earlier this year, the Justice Department slashed its public integrity section, which had also worked on public corruption cases. Members of the unit had also resigned after refusing to sign off on dropping the federal corruption case against New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Here's how one former Justice Department official puts it, quote, "This is yet another sign that it's open season for political corruption. The administration gutted the public integrity section, neutered the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C., and is now shuttering the FBI's preeminent federal public corruption squad. This isn't what voters had in mind when they heard drain the swamp." We're back with Andrew and Melissa. Melissa, this was telegraphed, but to see it put in motion and dismantled is still staggeringly shocking.
You're shocked? I'm not shocked by this.
I mean, it's amazing that the government would say we're not going to do this anymore. It's sort of a basic government function. And for Trump to corrupt and grift, but say he's still against corruption is actually more Trumpy than to corrupt and grift and actually get rid of the enforcement mechanism for catching other people in acts of corruption.
I'm not at all surprised by this. They said they were going to do this. They've been very clear and telegraphing what they are going to do. This isn't just about neutering the FBI's public corruption unit. It's about neutering the DOJ as an enforcement mechanism to enforce the laws of the United States that this administration doesn't care about or doesn't agree with. We've seen the DOJ's priorities shift on a myriad of different issues, whether it's voting rights, DEI. This is just one and the same. And I will just note, because I love to point out how the Supreme Court has essentially midwifed what we have seen here. The Supreme Court has for years whittled down the scope of federal statutes that allow entities like the Public Corruptions Unit to bring cases. So last year, there was a case called Snyder versus U.S. that said essentially that it was okay to tip your public official as long as it wasn't a bribe. It was a tip, but not a bribe. Tips are okay, bribes are not. And Justice Jackson, in a dissent, wrote, "This is a decision that only this court could love." And she's right. And so, yes, we can blame the FBI, we can blame the administration, but we should also offer a healthy dose of blame to the court that has essentially paved the way for an administration that wants to grift, that wants to be corrupt.
At some point, it stops being, though, about the courts and about the Trump administration, about us as a country. Historically, the politics of corruption have been abysmal for any Democrat or Republican. I mean, it wasn't a partisan issue. It was politically unpopular to be corrupt, to take money, bribes or tips, whatever you want to call them. Do you think that we're at sort of a post-rule of law moment in this country?
1,000%.
In terms of what the public wants?
Yeah, so no, in terms of where the White House is and including the Department of Justice. I'm going to go back to Enron. Enron, a huge Fortune 10 company, implodes. It's under the Bush administration. Mm-hmm. And there was no question, I worked on the case, there was no question that that was going to be investigated and going to be prosecuted. And there was a third rail was that there would be any political interference in that case, and it didn't happen. And that I'm raising that as an example because it was a Republican administration, and that was an obvious norm. And the same thing happens under Democratic administrations. This is really a post-rule of law country. You have Pam Bondi openly saying things that are not true, i.e. lying. You have her saying, I mean, so a friend of mine said it's perfect time to be a corrupt public official or a white-collar criminal. The Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, gone. FARA, the Foreign Agent Registration Act, gone. Kleptocracy unit, gone. Election interference unit, gone. Cryptocurrency, dismantled. Public corruption at DOJ and at the FBI, whittled down. In order to do a public corruption case, prosecutors don't just invent them. You know what you need? Agents. And so the squad that is the reporting is about is an integral part of being able to bring these cases. Who in their right mind sits there and goes in the voting booth and says, you know what? I want to vote for a public official to be able to commit crime.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, that is this is like the George Santos without George Santos. And I mean, that is just not something that election people want, but it is what is happening, and you have no recourse.
It's amazing, and I think about this all the time. What is our job in this period between what has been ushered in by the results of the November election and what people actually want? Because people won't get to weigh in again until the midterms. But this is Trump just, stripped down, naked to his grifting nudity and saying, give it, this is what we're going to do now. Yeah. And, we'll see. Country will weigh in on it in a year and a half.
The plane is such a great symbol.
So illustrative,
because it's something so concrete
and
so clear.
It's like there's not a single stop with a traditional American ally working on any traditional national interests. The trip is about people that his kids have already announced doing business with ahead of the trip.
It's about personal aggrandizement and using the public role for personal aggrandizement.
But it's all out in the public. So there are no investigative, stories into Trump Tower Moscow ambitions. His sons are out there announcing the pool in the sky, the golf course, the crypto coin deal. It's all out there.